What exactly is a virtue? We all know what a virtue is, yeah? Kind of? Yeah. Well, we all know what it is to be virtuous, and we can all give examples of what a virtue is. We have, like in our Judeo-Christian ethos, we have to be kind to others, to be in search of truth, and to be honest. And we elevate those higher than the other virtues of being gentle, of being compassionate, of being elegant, of being driven, of being resilient, of being charismatic. But it's hard to define what makes a virtue a virtue. Is it just a characteristic? Like, what exactly? But we can all agree that there's a hierarchy. There are some that are more important than others. We won't necessarily forgive that much for being charismatic. You can get away with stuff for being charismatic, but once light is shone on the darker side and there's like sociopathy behind it and all the rest, that the charisma can turn into a negative actually. But if you are being honest, we can forgive betrayal if you're honest. And that's a paradox because betrayal means that you didn't know at the time. But if they're honest afterwards, we can kind of forgive that. If people are kind, we can forgive perhaps gluttony. If people are in search of truth, we can forgive them for being mean and being harsh or whatever it is. But there's a weighing scales here, and that's almost how we use them. So I want to bring this up for a reason, because today's world is quite messy and it's hard to actually center around these values anymore, because being honest, being in search of truth and being kind to others just doesn't quite cut it in today's world. In the small villages that our ancestors would have been in, having those three was a solid foundation, and everything else you can work on it in your own time and we'll help you along and all of the rest. No problem at all. In today's world, you have, amongst many things, you have social media, and that polarizes you because whatever it can hook into you and get that response, and we all respond quicker to negative things, the gasp, the flinch, the anger, the judgment, all of those things come very quick to us, viscerally, like that has that physical stickiness to it where we can't quite get out of it. And the apps know this, and they take us down whatever rabbit hole we seem to enjoy going down. And this leads us to, take the police. Either they are absolute terrible people because they beat up minorities, or they are poor souls because they have such a tough job and they are going into dangerous situations. I don't mind your politics on this. This isn't the point. It is just to say that you're both looking at the same job and seeing totally different worlds. But it goes further. Take the January 6th taking over of the Capitol over in America. That was the same event, the same day, the exact, that's a microcosm right there. And on one side, you saw cable ties and you saw AR rifles and you saw people going in there to take over with intent, with whatever intent. Okay. And on the other side, then you saw mom and pops going around with American flags and singing Kumbaya and just being like, this is our peaceful right to protest because we're not being listened to and we are in search of truth and we are being honest and we are being kind to others. Do you see the point? It's very difficult. Those three just were... AI or technology is showing the cracks in different things and exploiting them. So the reason all of this is being brought up is because I was watching a recent video with Vervaeke, of course, and in this, him and Jordan Hall and your man from Integral Theory were talking about virtues that we could now circle around again, that we could kind of we could see ourselves in other people through these virtues, because that's kind of what we do with virtues. If they are kind, I'm a kind person, I can relate to that person a bit easier using those virtues. So suggestion of 4 new virtues to elevate. They're not new virtues because we're not inventing a virtue. It is just to recognize them and elevate them up high so that we can forgive some of the lower flaws and human mistakes that we do make in our everyday lives, as long as we are kind of elevating and pursuing these 4. Quickly, the 4 virtues are Opponent processing, finesse, suspension, and participation. And when I heard those 4, it resonated so much with me because I recognized that those were the tripwires that were stopping connection. That I was tripping over or the other person was tripping over, but something was flowing and then we just fall off because of one of these 4. Easy one we'll start is with opponent processing, and that is the ability to take both sides, to be able to argue both sides. Now this heavily links into suspension, but we'll stick with this for the moment. Just being able to have both sides, not agreeing with one or the other, maybe not agreeing with either, but just being able to say like, I get it. This is it, and it has its vices, it has its virtues. You can say this for communism versus capitalism, or you can say this for pro-gun or anti-gun, legalizing or banning. Whatever it is, that there's pros and cons to each side. And then we can have the true conversation, because we truly are torn between these pros and cons constantly. That decision didn't come lightly. And let's enter into that space where we made the decision so that we can be open to new information to our decision making, so that the other person can be open to it too. That virtue goes all the way down. As I said, linked to that is suspension. Suspension is suspending your own beliefs for a moment to allow the other person time to articulate, or allow the other person just to get the point across. And the real importance of this isn't to allow opponent processing and allow the other person to be heard. That is important, but it's about integrity. Because if you have a belief and it's really held in here, then you should trust that it will come out in the conversation. You don't need to, the minute the conversation comes up, here's my thing. If it's really embodied and is there and is thought through and is held, then it will come out. You can suspend it for a moment and you can be open to what uncovers and unfolds in the moment. Okay, then we have finesse. I love finesse because finesse is just that bit of swag, that bit of kind of just, beauty. It makes it an art form. It makes debating, it makes conversation, it makes it elegant. Just the whole thing. And finesse is all about timing. It's not about the attitude coming in and all the rest. It is about timing. When do I share? When do I hold? When do I console the other person? When do I confront the other person? When do I go off on a tangent? When do I offer a story? How long do I offer the story? Again, it's timing. How quick is that punchline? A punchline, how is it delivered timing-wise? Do I skip a beat? Do I hit it on the beat? Whatever it is, it's an art form. And this is just, again, so we can take it away from the art, just in conversation, in connection, in flow to the other person. Again, there's a time and a season for everything, for you to commiserate and wallow and be sad. There's a time for saying, come on, we're going to get over it. There's a time for your space, there's a time for their space. All of this. There's a season for everything. And then lastly is participation. Now, participation is not just being in the room, being in the conversation, being in the flow of the conversation. That kind of gets there. But it is recognizing that when you participate, the words you say bring out a certain side of the other person, and then that brings out a certain side of you, and you speak. So if I speak very prim and proper and all of the rest, the person might reflect that, and then we might have a very academic talk instead of a very personal one. Alternatively, if I bring in something personal, here's my story, might bring it in at a bad time, and maybe that will get their defense, and maybe that will make me defensive and ashamed, and I shouldn't have brought that up, and then the conversation goes a different way because they're going to pick up on the shame, and then they're going to try and make up for it, and then it's a cycle. I don't mean this in like a 1, 2, 3 move. I mean this as a constant unfolding, that this is constantly going. if I speak to you, if I offer eye contact, you're more likely to offer eye contact. That means that we're going to have a deeper conversation. That means that we might talk about personal stuff. That means that we might get into our history. And it's this, whatever it is, recognizing that there's patterns being played out. We are in a world of patterns, and we are about choosing the chaos because we don't know what's going to emerge or what's going to unfold or what's going to happen. We don't. We're just choosing the chaotic path in front of us because that's all we got in the present moment. We cannot predict everything, but we have to be the thing that knows it could go badly and is going to move anyway. We have to participate. So hopefully I've put these 4 across in as convincing a way as I can, because I truly believe that we need to consolidate ourselves again. We need community. We need communication. We need to be able to bridge across to others because well, how is it going otherwise? For me, it doesn't go great. So for me, communicating and getting into flow and deep conversations with other people is what's giving me vitality. So if that resonates with you, if the 4 virtues resonate with you, anything like that, I hope it did. I hope you got something from this. If you did, please hit like, hit subscribe. I'd appreciate it. And reach out. Let me know if you have any other virtues that you think supersede these 4. If you have any suggestions, I'd be very eager to find out because we're all working on ourselves. I'm working on myself. It might make a video, who knows? But no, it's more for a personal thing that I would like to elevate some of these things and forgive my bad language or my defenses or my whatever, but at least I'm opponent processing. At least I'm participating. Participation being a big one, because we will fail by participating naturally. So on that point, I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to say goodbye. Again, hit the buttons if you don't mind, and I will see you next week. Bye guys.